Right, good afternoon everyone. Thank you for being here today to celebrate the life of Andre Heydenrych, a man well respected and very, very loved. Allow me to welcome you on behalf of the family. Firstly, girlfriend Leva, ex-wife Kathy, Charles and Lizette, his siblings, child Greta, and all of the family, the rest of the family and friends. Thank you for coming to pay your last respects, especially those of you who have travelled from afar. There's plenty of space right up front here. I know the traffic's hectic, no problem, you're welcome. I do understand that none of you really want to be here today, and I wish we could have met under happier circumstances. I'm going to do the best I can to make the next hour or so as palatable and uplifting as possible. Please remember that a funeral service plays two very distinct roles. The first is paying our respects to our loved one, and the other is ministering to all of you left behind. I'll thus be addressing concepts of life and death throughout the service. Also wanted to pre-warn you all that the family have asked for as many people to share as possible, so the good news is I'm going to say a little bit less, and I'm going to allow you all to share your memories and your feelings. So if some of you would love to prepare for that in the meantime. I wanted to mention that my cell phone is on silent, so if yours rings during the service, I'll just smile in gratitude that it's yours ringing and not mine. We are here because we love Andre. And if we love him, we know him well enough to know that he had his own specific beliefs and that he was not particularly religious. I'm going to do my best in this day and age to address all of you and to try to make it meaningful to all of you, but bearing in mind that it's Andre's day and not yours. Today is a sad day. Death and funerals are incredibly sad occasions. What's interesting to me though, is if I were to ask each one of you here today, what you would want one day at your funeral service, I think you'd say what most people on earth would say, and you'd probably say more or less what Andre would say, if he were able to address you directly. Please don't be too sad for me. Please don't cry too much at my funeral. I had a great life. I lived and loved, laughed and cried, won and lost. I saw so many things, learned so many things, saw so many places, met so many people. I had an awesome family and magnificent friends. I marched to the beat of my own drum, sometimes confusing those who loved me. I tried to be a good child, a good spouse, a good sibling, a good parent, a good provider and supporter. And God knows I succeeded. And at times I failed, yet I have few regrets, and I would not change all that much. So celebrate that at my funeral. Celebrate and remember my successes. Remember me in my prime, but please don't get into too much doom and gloom. Life goes on, so celebrate mine, and then do the best you can to get on with yours. Could we open in prayer? Lord God, we call upon you in our hour of need. We call upon you and ask for your indulgence for a short time. We ask you to be with us as we move through this time. We have lost someone that we love, someone that is special to us, someone that we are used to having around. We do so wish that he was healthy, happy, vibrant, and still with us. But thank you, Lord, for the 67 years we had him with us. Thank you for his marriage. Thank you for the children, and thank you for his relationship with Leva. They all brought him so much pleasure. And thank you for his personality. He was a wonderful man. Help us, dear Lord, to come to terms with what has happened. Help us to wean ourselves off him. Help us to get used to him not being physically available. Help us to accept that he is gone. Most importantly, Lord, help us to release him and allow him to move on, unencumbered by our needs to hold him back. And beloved Andre, we acknowledge you today. We have come to pay our last respects. We want you to know that we love you and that we care. We've come to be with you. We've come to solidify our friendship. We've come to assist you to move forward. We've come to be with each other, to grieve momentarily together, but most importantly, to be with you and release you into your new experience. Amen. The Bible mentions dying in numerous verses, and my favorite is Ecclesiastes 3. And really is just a very short verse out of the Bible that I think is particularly relevant. For everything there is a season, and a time for every matter under heaven. A time to be born, and a time to die. A time to plant, and a time to pluck up what is planted. A time to kill, and a time to heal. A time to break down, and a time to build up. A time to weep, and a time to laugh. A time to mourn, and a time to dance. I have seen the business that God has given to the sons of men to be busy with. He has made everything beautiful in its time. And I know it's difficult at a time like this to accept what has happened, and very often how it happened, and all too often how soon it happened. But this passage clearly asks us to realize that God deems death to be beautiful. To me, death is a time of introspection. It's a time of remembering our departed loved one, smiling about the good times, shrugging about the bad times, possibly feeling remorse about some of the times. But Andre would want you to just accept and be at peace with all of the times. This is also a time of forgiveness. Firstly, forgiving yourself for all of the things you thought, the things you said, the things you did, and the things that you did not quite get to do. And a time to forgive Andre for any of the things he may have said, may have done, or may not have quite got to do. Every relationship has its ups and downs, and every family has its issues. The greatest gift you can give yourself and Andre today is to just accept that your relationship was 100% normal, and just forgive and forget. This is a time to say, thank you, I forgive you. It's also a time to say, thank you, I love you. Thank you for spending your life with us. Thank you for your friendship. Thank you for just being you. Thank you for always being there for us. Thank you, we love you. It's also a time of realization, realizing that we are all different and all have different paths to walk. Realizing that we are mortal, and just spending one quick moment contemplating our relationship to life, death, God, the universe, and eternity. Of course, it's also a time to remember others who have passed before and spend a moment in remembrance of them too. I'd like us specifically to remember those who passed before Andre at this time. His mother Bess, his father Peter, sister Elsabeth, friend Lucas Heydenrych, and Gert Kutsia. This is also a time of empathy, when we support those left behind. We've all lost someone or something, and so we reach out in friendship and understanding. We call to send condolences, we send flowers and emails and cards, we even make each other frozen dinners. We really are so lovely at this time. And at this lowest time in our lives, we simultaneously receive the most love and support. In fact, if there's anything I could ask of you all today, it's to please continue supporting the family. You may think that they don't want to be reminded. What they really want is not to be forgotten. So call them on Andre's birthday and on relevant anniversaries. Call them this time next year on his death anniversary, and the year after that, and the year after that, and the year after that. And when you hear a song that reminds you of him, SMS them and say, thinking of Andre. A man once asked a rabbi, how does one know when one's mission on earth is complete? The rabbi answered simply, if you are alive, it isn't. We thus have to at least consider that Andre may just have completed what his soul came to earth to experience. It's also a time of deep grieving. It's a time of feeling alone, feeling vulnerable. It's a time of frustration. It's a time of intense questioning. And it's a time of anger. You may be feeling angry with God, angry with the universe. You may even want to shout at him. Your emotions are fully understandable, acceptable, and to be expected. Please remember that even Jesus cried when he heard that his friend Lazarus was dead. So take your time to grieve. It's a rite of passage and it's part of the healing process. But please, don't let anyone tell you how long you should grieve for. Because Andre would not want you to grieve for 1 second longer than you really, really need to. I'm quite certain that one day when we pass, we'll look back at our friends and family and want them to be at peace as quickly as they can be. This is also a time for our own personal faith. It's a time of believing in what we believe in. It's a time of silent prayer, if that's what you want. And it's also a time when we are tempted to judge Andre, judge his life. What did he make of it? And unfortunately, we tend to measure religious worth by attendance at church rather than how a life was lived. But I ask all of you today, how does one judge another's life? Is one man's meat, not another man's poison? One man's success, not another man's failure? And how do we know what Andre's soul came to earth to experience? So I'd like to take you through one last thought process before I hand over to the eulogies. Because I'd like to ask you all to have a quick look at your own lives and, more importantly, remember your memories of Andre and how you know him to be. Because I believe on the day of reckoning, these are the criteria that would be most important. Did you do all you could with all you were given? Did you fully explore all of the opportunities that were sent to you? Did you rise to the challenges that were sent to grow you? Did you work at the relationships that were sent to temper you? Did you resist the temptations that were sent to strengthen you? Did you sacrifice willingly for those you loved? Did you dedicate your life to something greater than yourself? Did you love generously? Did you forgive quickly? Did you laugh often? Did you apologize graciously? Were you true to the essence of you, despite societal and religious pressure? Most importantly, did you become more you every day? In the following eulogies and tributes and in your own memories of Andre, I know that you all know that he was indeed true to himself, that he fully rose to the challenges of his particular life, that he willingly and continuously sacrificed for all of you that he loved, that he dedicated his life to his family and friends, and that he lived and loved and experienced what he needed to. I think we all know that he followed his own true path, and in so doing, fulfilled his mission on earth. Thank you. At this time I'm going to hand over to the eulogies, and I sincerely hope there'll be lots of them. We'll be starting with Shaul, moving on to a school friend from Grens. We've got Tim Knight, we've got Heydenrych, we've got Jan, we've got Peter. And then hopefully some of you will all come up and share as well. So if I can hand over to you, Shaul. Thank you.
Ja. Ek het vir Andre geken langer as enige van julle. From the moment that I was aware he was in my world, and yeah, my world was better for it. For about 14 years, we did things more or less together. But when he went to visit friends like Johan Opperman and Didi Lombard, he didn't want me to accompany him, but I knew if I followed him from a distance, he would have to tolerate me because he knew that my mother expected him to ensure. That no harm come upon me, and I had to be looked after. Sometimes he had to actively protect me. For example, I pulled some leaves from an overhanging mulberry tree, and when the boy in whose yard it was wanted to belt me, Andre told him to, in no uncertain terms, to back off. We played from hide and seek with the Clelands, the neighbours' girls, hopscotch to cricket, cards, Monopoly. My dad built us wooden games of skill, the best go-kart in the neighborhood. We had silkworms, we had train sets, we made kites, and dressed up like guys on Guy Fawkes Day. We also fought, for example, to sit in that space at the back of a Volkswagen 1957, that little dicky seat at the back. We fought to occupy that space. We had clod fights, we had cushion fights, we had kitty fights. We were happy kids. Then my sister Elspeth died. She was 4 years old. It did change our lives somewhat. But yeah, we still built sand castles on Eastern Beach and tried to, in vain, to save them from the incoming tide. Then came the 60s with Elvis Presley and Beatles. The valves of our radio were hot as we listened to pop music on shortwave and radio. I heard paperback writer on Andre's transistor radio for the first time without his permission. He wouldn't like me to use his radio. Andre had a tie with the 4 Beatles on, long hair, embossed on it, pictures of Elvis on his side of the room. Our room was separated into 2. And we listened to J-Lo's Rock and Wooden Heart on the Tepes Bambino record player on the Hoon Beach. Andre was a pensive type. He spent his time reading and studying. 3 degrees eventually. We bought the Afrikaanse Kinderencyclopedia with money that he saved from our weekly allowance and read it from cover to cover. And if that was not enough, he persuaded my parents to buy the Encyclopedia Britannica a few years later. He said he just couldn't withstand having all that knowledge in one place. It was just an unbelievable thought for him. He was one of the few people that loved maths and Latin at school. Now, my mother taught him to read before he went to school. She wasn't that successful with me. So because of that, he spent only 1 day in grade 1, 6 months in grade 2, and then on to standard 1. So when 16 years old, with the nickname of Professor, he wasn't just, it wasn't just because of his glasses that he had that nickname. He was on his way to university. He was an avid reader. He read everything from Churchill's History of the British People to Andy Capp. He actually had a whole collection of that famed character. But he also had a competitive streak in him that came out in many of his later endeavors, being running, cycling, and even at work career-wise. He was, I wouldn't call it compulsive, but what would you call a person that developed a matrix that would contain 500 numbers per page, and then went about to fill them with observed CE, that's East London's car registration numbers. I would be his sidekick and he'd say, did you get that car number? Did you get that car number? We'd put it on a piece of paper first, and then we'd transfer it into this on a daily basis. Really an impossible task. We also spent days on days walking the streets of East London, collecting used bus tickets, and then again sorting them in number sequence. He was also a bit into fast cars and followed the Grand Prix, and that without having a TV, another quirk of him, another peculiarity. In 1997, Johan Roos and I decided to run the Comrades. That was after Lucas Geldnys really inspired us, and the guys that know Lucas, he was a big guy, and doing the Comrades was really an inspiration. Now, Andre ran every kilometer with me in preparation of that first Comrades in 1978, including that first televised TV run, together with guys like Klaas Versace, Fred Benson and others. But he decided after that year of training that he was not ready. Now, that was my first Comrades. My second one was 22 years later. Now, Andre essentially filled the gap with his 19 Comrades. And in the process, he recorded every meter that he ran in a comprehensive running log. Now, many of you are his running mates, but you might not know what actually got him going in the beginning. In the late 1970s, the railways embarked on a process called management development centers. These were assessment centers that helped identify future leadership potential. Now, Audrey de Bort was the guy that gave him the feedback on his performance in that center. And Audrey told him that he scored below average in a dimension called tenacity, in Afrikaans deursettingsvermoë. He asked Andre for examples of what it entailed. Well, running a marathon was one of the things that one can do, Audrey said. Now, I think Andre, in his unique way, showed us what tenacity really means, by running around the world more than 80,000 kilometers. That surely showed them. But why did he really do it? Not to be fit, and not really because of any other reason than to pass the time. He said one has to pass the time. One has to do something to pass the time. That was part of his life philosophy. He also said that life was designed to be a hassle, but one should accept it and make the best of it. Now, for a person whose view it was that there isn't really such a thing as right or wrong, only consequences, I believe that he mostly did the right thing. Not always, and as some individuals will no doubt attest. Andre wasn't a demonstrative person, but yes, I do believe that he showed his love and being caring in many ways. For example, by contributing to his gardeners' education, to his running friends by offering them a boerewasrou or a beer, a castle, the genealogical society for doing things over and above what was called for, to the Plusco group to ensure that not 1 cent was not accounted for, to Lizette by lending her money when she experienced difficulties, to Kathy by not divorcing her and keeping her on his medical aid to be able to care for her medical condition, to me through sensible advice that I never listened to and don't intend to Liva, by the way he treated and cared for her, his daughter Greta, by the way he spoke of her and the achievements and welcomed Volker as her fiancé. Yeah, Andre. He was my only brother.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is a sad occasion, but I'm warmed by the thoughts of the life of Andre and the privilege it was to know him. I didn't know him well. We met a few times each year, but his company I enjoyed immensely. His intellect, his intelligence, and above all, his humour. He had many interests. He could talk on any subject. I remember having an excellent evening with him talking about the Roman Empire, a set of books he was reading, and he was giving me anecdotes with his brilliant humour injected into this. His intelligence was demonstrated when he joined Mensa, the High IQ Society. He joined that in 2000. He enjoyed it so much that he immediately applied to become a life member, which he became. And then one day I met him in a meeting, and I was looking after finances in the organization at the time, and he said, "I hear you're considering discontinuing life membership." I said, well, we're considering it. It better not affect me, he said. And he had such a delightful twinkle that I knew he was serious, but he wouldn't hold it against me. We continued with his life membership. He had a delightful intolerance of things he didn't believe in. Pseudosciences, astrology, numerology, that sort of thing. And one evening we had a speaker who was speaking to us on numerology. And we met beforehand and thought, what is this numerology? Apparently some study of numbers where you get some special meaning from the numbers. Sounds strange. We went into the meeting and this lady in her early middle age explained her science to us. And at the end, Andre stood up and said, "You mean if I take the numbers that are in my birthday and I add them up and I get another number, you can read something into that number?" She said, "Yes." "Thank you," he said, and sat down. The lady, I think, thought she had a convert. But we all knew that Andre was not very impressed with her. Mensa has an annual conference, we call it the annual gathering. And he and I went to one of these conferences in KZN. And here I saw a side of him, a teasing side of him that I hadn't seen before. We were going to an event, I took my car, we came back, and we went to the car park, and there were two places available, one on one side and one on the other. And I looked at this and thought, that one's closer to the restaurant, that one's closer to the rooms. I'll take the one closer to the rooms. He looked at me and he said, "Do you know something? You can't make a decision." I said, "Yes, I can, I was just weighing it up." "No, you can't make a decision. I never knew that about you." "I can." Anyway, then I saw the twinkle again and realized that he was just teasing me, as he can. At the end of the conference, I came down to breakfast, and Andre was at a breakfast table with some other people, and there was a space there. And I joined him, and the restaurant had furniture which was very old, period stuff, so it was very nice, but old and worn. And I sat on my chair, and it felt a little bit wobbly. And I sort of moved it, and it collapsed totally from under me. I ended up sitting in a pile of firewood. The people in the restaurant rushed towards me. "Are you all right? Are you all right?" The manager came up to me. "So sorry, sir, so sorry." I felt I could have got the bill paid with him. Andre sat at the table and just laughed like a drain. He knew I was all right, and he thought it was hilarious. And it was, and it put a true perspective on it. He's done many things in his life. I know he's happy. He's happy with his life. I think he's done everything he wanted to. A wonderful man, wonderful company, intelligent, and tremendous fun to be with. I will sorely miss him.
Good afternoon, all of you. I'm from the GSSA. You did not know what it stands for. It is the Genealogy Society of South Africa. So that is family research. Now, Andre's brother said that he do something running to get a time passed. But for us, Andre had really helped us. He was for more than 11 years our treasury. And I was the president for the last 3 years of that 11 years for Andre. So I have received a letter from Peter Corriers-Brink, which I will read. She is the current president. We will always remember Andre as a person that did a lot for the Genealogy Society of South Africa. During the time that he was the treasurer, and that was a long time, I know it was 11 years, he did more than 3 people's work. He was the product coordinator, membership secretary, and the treasurer all at once, with commitment to make things work for all of us. He did more for the GSSA in his quiet manner that we could ever imagine. When he retired from the active involvement in the society in March 2011, we did not know that when he was talking about, when he mentioned a garage full of stock and history of the society, it was a mountain of items he had in stock, and it was a full garage. He did not mind the GSSA invading his life and space. He was committed to helping others with the knowledge and skills that he had. When Andre talked, we as a very focal group of people in the GSA listened. Witty comments from Andre made you think more and more could be done with less words. To the family and friends of Andre, thanks for sharing him and his life with us in the GSSA. We will always have fond memories of him. Pedro Correios Brandt, current president of GSSA. From my own side, if you will excuse me, I've some notes, but it is in Afrikaans. Ek het vir Andre geleer ken in 2007. Voordat het ek notisie geneem van hom, ek het geweet hy's daar. Maar in 2007 het ons saam 'n toespraak gelewer by die LDS in Parktown. In 2008, Maart maand, is ek verkies tot nasionale president van die Genealogiese Genootskap van Suid-Afrika. En ek moet vandag erken dat 'n klomp van die steunpilare is mense wat jy nooit sou verwag het wat jou hand sal neem en vir jou absoluut die volgende paar jaar die pad sal lei nie. En Andre was een van hierdie mense. As daar 'n projek was wat ons gedoen het, het Andre net eenvoudig gesê, Heydenrych, jy het nou jou deel gedoen, bring alles vir my, ek sal dit verder vat, ek wil dit verder vat, dit is my werk, al was dit nie eers sy werk nie. En ook hier weet ek nie of hy net sy tyd vir hom gekry het nie, maar een van die gesegdes van Andre, as iemand gesê het, en veral dan nou ek, dis baie om te doen, en jy weet nie waar gaan jy tyd kry, en dan sê jy vir my, ag Heydenrych, 'n dag het 24 uur, en jy kan oortyd werk. So, dit is seker die oortydure wat hy ook in hardloop in gesit het. Maar Andre was altyd daar, Andre wou altyd help. En al het hy nie self familienavorsing gedoen nie, het hy alles van almal geweet. Die mense wat vir die genealogiese genootskap gekontak het, om antwoorde te soek, het deur Andre gegaan. Hy het geweet wat om vir hulle te sê, na wie om hulle te verwys, en hy het altyd seker gemaak dat hulle die hulp kry wat hulle moet kry. Ek sal vir Andre altyd onthou. In hierdie 3 jaar wat ek en Andre saam gewerk het ons vriende geword. Ek het 'n hele paar keer by sy huis gaan kuier, gepraat oor wat ons vorentoe moet doen vir die genootskap, en hy het altyd 'n antwoord en 'n positiewe uitkyk vorentoe gehad. Daarom, van my eie kant af, van die familie en vriende, mag julle vrede vind, en mag God ons bewaar wat agterbly. Mag hy vir ons die liefde wat ons vir Andre het, altyd in ons harte vashou. Baie dankie.
Charles, Lenny, the rest of the family, just accept on behalf of Rookwood Athletics Club, our condolence. We're also going to miss Andre. In our Rookwood Club, we're like a big family. We also gossip. There's always a couple of arguments, especially the women who gossip. because he was women. But we're going to miss Andre. Andre was not just a runner, he was part of a big family. And I've met Andre 37 years ago when he joined the Roodepoort Athletics Club. And I'm going to miss him because by even this year, the 2 days before Comrades at night, he sent me an SMS, see if you can break my 1984 time. But from the beginning, me and Andre always had a competition in running. It was a 5K, a 10K, whatever it was, we always chased the hell out of each other. And Andre could never beat me on the Comrades, except in 1984, he made a good job, but I always beat Andre with 10 or 20 minutes. In 1984, Andre did a good job and he beat me with exactly a half hour. Andre could break the 7 hour time, I could never do it. But in any case, we're going to miss him. And another thing I wanted to say, Brian, Andre was not only known in Gauteng. I was walking in Zeerust one day, I was training there, I was with friends, and I went for a run that morning. And I was out of town and I ran out of water, my water bottle. And I was looking for water and I came near a farmhouse. And I asked him if I could fill my water bottle up. He said yes. He said, "What are you running this time in the morning for in the veld?" I said, "I'm training for Comrades." He said, "Comrades marathon runner?" I said, "Yes." He said, "Which club are you running for?" I said, "Roodepoort." He said, "Do you know Johan van Wyk and Andre Heydenrych?" I said, "Yes." He said, "Where do you know them from?" He said, "No, with his first Comrades, he wanted to bail, and he was in a bailer's bus already. And Andre pulled him out and said to him, 'No, you're going to stay with us.' And Andre helped him through the last 30 Ks. Then a couple of months later, well, a year later, I was with my family in Port Pietersburg, and I had a t-shirt on, the Comrades. And I was walking, and this bloke bumped into me in Hyperama, and he said to me, "Comrades runner?" I said, "Yes." He said, "Which club?" I said, "Roodepoort." He said, "Do you know Andre Heydenrych?" I said, "Yes." He said, "Andre helped him through on the Two Oceans Marathon when he wanted to bail." About a year or two later, I was in Namibia, we were busy with skydiving. And as I got into the plane, one of the blokes saw my socks with a Comrades emblem on it. He said, "You're a Comrades runner?" I said, "Yes." He said, "Which club?" I said, "Roodepoort." He said, "Do you know Andre Heydenrych?" I said, "Yes." He said, "Andre helped him through on the Comrades when he wanted to bail." And it's a great man in this coffin today. We're going to miss him. And everything of the best for you and the rest of the family shall. And as I say, he's a great man. We're going to miss him. And he did for Roodepoort Athletics Club and for Gauteng what I thought I did for Paris.
Neela, Charles, Kathy, and friends, please bear with me. This is one of the toughest moments of my life. I'd like to start off by reading a letter or an email I received this morning coming from Switzerland. Dear Lever and MC friends, having received the sad news of Andre's passing away, I'm sitting here far away in the morning of his funeral and once again recall, as I've done the past days, my memories of him. On the road, Andre stood out. I've always thought that he wanted to stand out, possibly wanted to be a little bit provocative, proudly and obstinately flaunting his fading Roodepoort athletics colours in an age when many runners are disposed to acquire the latest fashion in trendy running gear at the local sports shop. Indeed, and interestingly, the revelation that Andre had invested in a new Roodepoort running shirt overshadowed all other running news in the weeks following his momentous decision. That was Andre on the road, admittedly a narrow view, but it did say a lot about an old friend, as around the MC table he also loved to provoke us a bit in his usual engaging and intelligent manner, and force us to consider a different perspective on the topic of the day. Being a good observer of human fallacy and peculiarities, Andre brought original humour to the table. In self-mocking fashion, who will ever forget his stories about somewhat exotic haircuts he chose to be administered to him, and we could picture him, blonde hair above a white sheet at some street corner, contemplating the pedestrians and the traffic passing by. Rest in peace, Andre. Like the old proverbial soldiers, You have not died, indeed, not even faded away. You will always be in our minds. Lieve, it is difficult to find the right words, but you know that we care. Peter and Liz Mulder in Switzerland. And as I started on my own notes, I started with a quotation. Some wise man said, "You can't choose your family, but you can choose your friends." And as I thought about it, Andre would invariably, you pick up a quotation like that, Andre would always let you know where it came from. But as I think of that quotation, and I think of Charles, the difference between Charles and myself was that Charles had no choice. Andre was his family. But to many of us, we had a choice. And to me, Andre, as I said in the note to Lieve, was closer than a brother. And Andre and I had a duel in the 1000K challenge. On the flyer, you'll see that it mentions that Andre had done some 35,000 Ks. But the only reason that was the last scroll he got. Andre and I had both done 22 challenges. We'd done 37,000 Ks. We were having a duel to see who would be the next one to receive the trophy for around the world. And sadly, it'll never happen. Andre and I had so many other links. You know, we were both East London boys. We had a lot to talk about in East London. We travelled around the country together. I think of our times in Cape Town. For something like 7-8 years, we stayed at the same bed and breakfast. We had glorious breakfast, glorious as the times together. We had trips to Bergville. We had regular trips to the Kruger Park. Only last weekend, Andre and Lieve were scheduled to be there with us. We were going to run the Kaapse Marathon, and we planned that months ago, and then we booked a house at Skakuza, and sadly, and as I was lighting the fire on Saturday evening, Andre chose to leave this world, and I just thought it was typical. I would have been lighting the fire. Lieve would have been keeping Andre out for the last moment until the gates closed, and you know, Andre was a bush baby, and some of my great runs with Andre were out in the country where you could hear the birds, and Andre had this ear for the birds, and it was a case that he could pick up the sound and say what it was. Me, I couldn't tell one bird from another as far as sounds were concerned, but I beat Andre every time with my eyes. And we used to say, with his ears and my eyes, we could be a great team. I look at my notes, and I wrote down that Andre was more than just a dumb runner. When I asked Sue, is there anything that I should say about Andre, she said, you know, he was a very clever guy. And Charles referred to his 3 degrees. And it was something I'd always admired about Andre. That so often in the civil service, one is inclined to go for these diplomas and to get one on top of another, and that you would get more and more recognition for it. But in Andre's case, it was never that. It was just a case of improving his learning. And they were all bachelor degrees, with a BCom and then a law degree. And then the one that astounded me was a computer science degree. But the one thing I'll say about Andre was that whilst he was very much in the athletic world, his knowledge of sports was close to non-existent. And again, Sue told me that I had to tell the difference. Andre at least knew the difference between soccer and rugby. It was the case that rugby was played with the guys with the odd balls. But as Charles said, Andre was a great reader, and you know, we also shared a love for history. And Andre was also a Churchill groupie, and Andre was never happier than if he was coming up with some Churchill quote. And I just thought, if Andre was here today, he would be telling us about Churchill and Lady Astor. Now, Lady Astor said, "Mr. Churchill, if you were my husband, I would put poison in your coffee." And he said, "Lady Astor, if you were my wife, I'd drink it." Also bumping into Lady Astor in the lift, he said to her, "You're ugly, my dear." She says, "Mr. Churchill, you drunk." He said, "I know, but tomorrow I'll be sober and you'll still be ugly." For me, apart from the running, it was a case of it was the Monday Club. Andre was a founder of the Monday Club, and it's a case of folks said, "Well, what was the Monday Club about?" I think the Monday Club started as a bunch of drunken runners getting together on a Monday morning to discuss the weekend's races, and as the time went by, we would talk about glories in days gone by. And it's a case of the older we got, the faster we became. There's an old Chinese problem that says the miracle is not to fly in the air or to walk on the water, but to walk on earth. And I think on some of those Monday mornings we were sort of flying in the sky. But again, a quote from Andre, and to how the Monday Club was to inspire us. "To know how to grow old is the master work of wisdom, and one of the most difficult chapters of the great art of living." And that was the sort of thing we would discuss on a Monday. But it was also, we also made a mark in the society. The Monday Club raised close to R250,000 for charity. We gave over 600 food parcels to an AIDS orphanage. And I can say that Andre certainly made a difference. In closing, I just want to leave if I could find my notes. I've got so caught up in my nervousness and emotions and emotions of the day. I wanted to leave two thoughts. And again, a quote that Andre would be able to tell us who it comes from is empathy. Empathy, and this is directed at you, Lever. Empathy is your pain in my heart. And as I look around and I look at Andre's friends, I say, guys, the challenge for us is to look after Lever. We've got our own lives to lead, but Lever has that big gap, and we need to be there to support her. And that's what Andre would want. And my final thought was, and it gives me peace, and that's why I'm so pleased to be here today. I know that when Andre died, he was at peace with this world. He was ready to face his maker. And I leave the challenge to each one of you, or you.
Thank you for all of those tributes. I have one email from Mavoren Graham to Greta, Lever, Charles, all the family near and far, all those who love Andre as much as we do. Andre is sorely missed, yet always with us. You are in our thoughts and wishes today and every day. That's from Anne McDermott, Kate and Brendan, John and Diana McDermott, Ray and Liam, and Mavoren Graham, Anton and Isaac. We are bereft. Andre, the lake in Prospect Park, whispers your name to all who run there. Right, at this time I'm going to ask if there's anyone else who would like to come up and share. Thank you.
Baie dankie vir die geleentheid om namens Andre se vriende van die Hoërskool Grens se matriekklas van 1962 'n paar woorde te sê. Ons het verlede jaar Oktober ons matriekklas se 50ste reunie gevier. Andre was daar. Dit was 'n fees van 'n naweek. Ons het heerlik saam gekuier. Daardie naweek het skoolmaats werklik vriende geword. Toe ek en Andre per geleentheid daarna 'n bietjie oor die reunie gesels, het hy vir my gesê dat daardie naweek vir hom werklik een van die hoogste punte van sy lewe was. Wat dit meer indrukwekkend maak, is dat die reunie plaasgevind het ongeveer 'n week nadat André met kanker gediagnoseer is. Desnieteenstaande het hy die reunie bygewoon en het hy voluit geniet. As jy na André gekyk het die naweek, dan sou jy nie kon besef hoe siek man hy eintlik was nie. Maar dit sê iets van die persoon van André. Niks kon hom onderkry nie. My verbintenis met André strek oor 'n tydperk van nagenoeg 60 jaar. Ons was saam op laerskool, ons was saam op hoërskool. Op 10 Desember 1962 het ons saam by daardie destydse Suid-Afrikaanse vervoerdienste aangesluit. En 40 jaar later in 2002 het André uit diens getree. Sedertdien het ons natuurlik gereeld kontak gehou. As ek nou terugdink aan André, dan flits daar twee gedagtes die jou kop, twee eienskappe van hom wat soos 'n paal bo water uitstaan. Daar is daarna verwys, maar dit is nie 'n André sonder daai twee eienskappe nie. En die eerste is sy hoë intellek, en ten tweede is sy droë sin vir humor. Wat sy intellek betref, op skool het ons reeds geweet dat André 'n baie skrander en 'n begaafde kind was. Trouwens, ons het gedink hy's 'n bietjie van 'n nerd, en ek weet André sal glimlag as hy nou hoor wat ek dit van hom sê. As ons gespeel het en kattekwaad aangevang het André vir plesier wiskundige probleme opgelos. In matriek het hy vir hy eksamenvraestel in wiskunde 99% gekry. Toe die onderwyser hom die vraestel gee, toe sê hy vir André, André moet asseblief tog nie 'n fout soek nie, daar is nie 'n fout nie. Ek kan jou nie 100% gee nie, en daarom het ek 1% afgetrek vir jou lelike skrif. Op akademiese gebied het André uitgeblink. Daar is verwys na sy grade. Al wat ek kan sê is, ek dink André se stokperdjie was om grade bymekaar te maak. Maar nog 'n uitstaande kenmerk vir André. Ook by sy loopbaan met Transnet was hy besonder suksesvol. Toe hy uitgetree in 2002, toe het hy die baie senior posisie van hoofbestuurder beklee. En nogtans, ten spyte van al hierdie prestasies van André, het hy altyd so nederig gebly. André het 'n baie droë sin vir humor gehad, ook op skool. Ons het op skool 'n Afrikaanse onderwyser gehad, matriek. 'n pyponderwyser, maar hy het ook sy aardighede gehad. Hy het altyd in die klas vir ons gesê, you pays your money, you makes your choice. Nou, ons het op die bepaalde dag in matriek 'n Afrikaanse vraestel geskryf. Nou ken julle die atmosfeer in 'n eksamenlokaal, somber en swaar. Angstig om te sien wat die vraag is. Alles was stoepstil. Ewe skielik bulder hier 'n stem van agter die klas uit. You pays your money, you makes your choice. Dit was André. Noodloos om te sê, die klaskamer het geskater van die lag, ook die onderwyser, maar die atmosfeer was gebreek en ons kon rustig verder skryf. André het ook sy humor behou toe hy so baie siek was. Toe hy gehoor het dat hy kanker het hy vir die dokter gevra wat die vooruitsigte was. Die dokter het vir hom gesê, dit is nie maklik om te sê nie, dit kan 1 jaar wees, dit kan 5 jaar wees, dit kan 15 jaar wees. Waarop André droog geantwoord het, dankie dokter, ek vat die 15 jaar. Ek sluit af. André was 'n goeie vriend gewees. Ons grensies gaan hom mis. Ons toekomstige byeenkomste sonder André sal net nie dieselfde wees nie. André vriend, mag hy in vrede rus. To leave, greet his daughter to return to Germany, Charles and his loved ones. On behalf of class of 62, I wish to extend to you our sincere condolences with your big loss. We know the road ahead is going to be bumpy and rocky, but time is a great healer. I'm sure that in the not so far distant future, you will often carry a fond smile, thinking of the happy memories you shared with André. Thank you.
in a couple of weeks' time, or 2 exactly, we have a road race which Andre has actually run for 29 years. We've heard about his humour. Well, on the Saturday, when all these runners come to collect their entries, proudly comes Andre. He's wearing the Vital vest, which he got 28 years ago, and he says, look, I can fit into it. Sadly, 2 weeks' time, I will not have Andre with his vest. Rest in peace.
I only met Andre a few years ago at the Libertarian Society. Something he and his brother Charles have in common is a love of liberty, a total disrespect for authority and rules. And I found a kindred spirit there. One way you can tell a man's character is whether he's willing to honour his bets or not. And one evening at the dinner I was in discussion with Andre, and we had a discussion that you can actually tell somebody's intelligence by his vocabulary in his home language. So Andre says, no, that's not just his home language, he could be in English as well. So I said, Andre, there's no way, my vocabulary in English is definitely better than yours, but I mean, I wouldn't even challenge you in Afrikaans. So he said, well, what we do is we write down 5 words on a piece of paper and we see if the other one can understand it. So great, we both wrote down 5 words, and I was very careful to write down words I'd only recently learned, so there's no ways he could knew them. He knew 3 out of the 5 words, and I knew 4 out of his 5. So he immediately took the 100 rand bet out of his pocket and paid it to me. The crowd at the dinner claimed he'd won because I misspelled some of the words, and there were even emails that followed claiming that I'd incorrectly been paid, and it became quite a thing. But to Andre, he knew that he didn't know my words, and he honoured that, and he paid. And that, to my mind, tells me something of his integrity as a man.
Thanks. Hi. I've known Andre for 25 years. We ran together. To my mind, it was always the eternal optimist was Andre. You know, you'd be, many a time, I'm the biggest moaner on the road. I moan from start to finish. And he would just look at me, you know, like a benevolent father looks at a naughty child. And the one day we were on the Johnson Crane, and I was running with Bill Bainbridge, which I'm sure a lot of you know. And it was a double lapper, and we were getting towards the stadium. And of course I'm giving it, well, and Billy said, well, I won't repeat what Billy said, because this is the house of the Lord. And Andre was kind of shuffling along, and Billy said to him, Andre, do me a favour, will you take her? And Billy ran off and left me, and I was moaning and groaning and carrying on, and he's going, no, it's not too bad. It's not too bad. And that was Andre. It was always not too bad. You know, there was always the finish in sight, and it was always going to be okay. And when I went to visit him at the hospital, the eternal optimist in him kind of came out. And one of the few words, probably one of the few of the words that he actually ever last said. And I was standing by him and holding his hand, and I said to him, you know what, lad? Life is crap. And he looked at me with those eyes, and he said to me, he shook his head and he said, only at the end.
Good afternoon, everybody. I have to say a few words, and thank you for having me here. We have 3 things in common with my good friend here. He was my neighbor. Lived in Baklo. I lived in 3 streets away from where he lived. So I used to see him training in the evenings when I was coming from work. And so I knew that the challenge was heavy on a Sunday morning, because I saw him training and I'd never beat him. The other thing, of course, he's a runner, also a has-been runner. And I also cycle. And he cycled. I'm glad when I came in, I saw some of the pictures that, okay, because maybe nobody would believe that if I say that I did beat him in cycling. You know, I couldn't pronounce his surname, but he used to call me Mr. Kumalo, and I wanted to call him by Mr. So he'd say, no, call me Andre. And we decided some 5, 6, 7 years ago to go and run at the Sanjuana, you know, where the Zulus beat the Brits. Any Englishman here? Yes. So we went there. I said, Andre, you will see the Zulu magic here. Guess what? I saw him at the start and at the finish, he was done. My friend, you beat me. I said, yes. I thought you had a spear. That's why I ran away from you. I did get my revenge though. Is his brother Sharp? Sharp, yeah. And thanks to you, so I decided to take up cycling. Road running, I like speed. I don't like this mountain bike, no. Dangerous stuff. So I went to, there was a race at a place called Ottosdal. I said, my friend, you hunt that? I said, yes. Now I had taken him to Zululand, you know, in San Juan, so he's taking me to the sticks, you know, Fender's Club that way. I said, right, let's go. We started, it wasn't 100 Ks. In cycling you can do 100 in no time. In running 100 you would train for years and like, geez. Yeah. So we started. I could see my friend, he tried to pull away from me. He couldn't. And you know, in cycling, some of you know, you have to sit behind the person's wheel. You just, you know, attack from behind, where the enemy. So I sat behind the wheel. I realized these gears were not changing. I pulled away, he found me seated. I said, yes, I got my revenge. What happened? I said, no, it's my brother's bike, so thanks to you for giving me the bike. You go well, my friend. So now I got this email that said, he's not with us anymore. It was in the evening. No, it was late at night. I thought, okay, what can I do to honor him? Woke up in the morning, put on my shoes, went to run again. Up the streets of Maglu. I could do 10 Ks. I couldn't handle 10 Ks. It was too heavy. But I kept on, I finished. So tomorrow, it's a 21 and a 10K at Irene. I shall be there for you, my friend. I will do a 10K. Thank you.
I have two very short stories I wish to share with you about our friend over here. In reverence to his intellect and his brain power, all his degrees, I dubbed him Dr. Pless. We all know Mrs. Pless from Stadfontein Caves. He quite liked that, a new title for him, Dr. Pless. And not long after that, after the race, he came to me and he said to me, he'd run the 5. And he said to me, have you seen Mrs. Pless? Has she come in yet? That was Lever. And then I need to go to a Two Oceans race a couple of years ago. Coming into Fisher, you can't miss the faded red top from Rotherput Club. And there was Andre. And he had a young black man next to him. And as you know, the big name board, the back said Andre, and this small young black man, and his name was Elvis. And I pulled up alongside Andre, and he turned around and he said to this youngster, you must talk to this Mandali. He'll tell you a lot about Elvis. So I was immediately put on duty, and I said to this youngster, you're born on the 8th of January? And he said, yes, how did you know? I said, well, your mother knew that it was Elvis's birthday, and that's why she called you Elvis. And he was a bit gobsmacked. Now, I don't know if it's true, but I mean, Elvis was born on the 8th of January. I should know, we often used to phone him. After a few years. And Andre and I ran with this guy for a while, and we just spoke Elvis. Andre and I, whenever we ran, it was always Elvis in Afrikaans, né, nogal. And I think we even sang one or two Elvis songs to this youngster. And I think he will remember this, what a Two Oceans. I don't know if he finished, but he had these two old, shouting old farts with him, bringing a lot more Elvis into his life. And I hope that lives with that young man. And then just the last thing, ons het vandag hier gehoor, sy humor was legendaries. Almal daarna verwys. Maar nog 'n komponent van sy humor, sy eie droë humor sin, was sy vermoë om humor te ontvang. En jy kon met die fynste staaltjie voor 'n dag kom, en hy sou dit onmiddellik optel. Gouer dan enigiemand anders. So goeie fyn humor was nooit gemors as Andre naby was, want sy inname van fyn humor en nuances en sulke goed was op legendaries. En dit is wat ek die meeste sal mis. En dan nog die derde komponent, is daar die skaterlag van hom, as hy mond so oop gaan en hy tande, en hy dik kapitaal en bokkelbrille van hom hang hier op sy neus, en die man lag. Dat is het.
Well, I didn't know Andre, but the way I judge how much someone was loved or respected was, firstly, how many people come to the funeral, right? and then how many eulogies there were and how long the service was. And so I can only assume that he was very, very loved and very, very respected. Andre now moves into the next phase of a very carefully and perfectly choreographed eternal experience. All he really needs right now is your love and support. Andre would want you to think about him, he'd want you to talk about him, and he'd want you to remember him by somehow including him in your family functions and get-togethers. Andre would want you to mourn for a while, but not for too long. He'd want you to remember him fondly, but not to pine for him. He'd want you to think of him over birthdays, Easter, Christmas, New Year, and other special times. Possibly light a candle, or write in a card, or drink a toast, or write down some number plates, but not to dwell on the past for too much. Andre would want you all to get on with your lives and think of him often, as he will be doing the same wherever he is right now. Could we close in prayer? Lord God, we hand our beloved Andre into your care. We know that in your infinite wisdom, you know what is best for him. We know then and believe that you have a plan for him. And we know that his passing was part of that divine plan. Lord God, we ask you to open your doors to Andre and allow him into your kingdom. Lord, today we send Andre upon his path. We understand that the universe is in order. We understand that energy is eternal. We understand that consciousness is immortal. We know that life is an education. And we know that Andre sure learnt and he sure taught us. All we ask is that you send him upon his path with love, and that you ensure that we all cross paths with him again. Lord God, we return Andre's body to the earth from whence you first made man, and we return his beautiful soul back into your keeping. Amen. Thank you, everyone. That concludes my part of the service today. We're going to replay the slideshow. We have a beautiful tribute that I'm sure all of the runners are going to love. I suggest you sit and watch that for a while, and then make your way up to the laughter. You're all invited to tea and refreshments. Go in God, go in peace, until we meet again. Thank you.